Growing up sucks. Thankfully though, if you're a 90s kid like me, there are tons of shows from our childhood to stream all over the interwebs. Ah, the 90s. The era when Blink-182 were making music, baggy jeans were the in style, and Will Smith was a national treasure. Okay, all these things still apply to this era, but still, for us 90s kids, otherwise known as millennials, we have a great deal of nostalgia for our childhood. That is in part down to the fact that 2020 has been a nightmare, straight out of a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode, am I right? But it's also down to the fact that getting old isn't easy.
You just turned 28!
And we're in a weird transition mode, where we are not old enough to be considered old and not young enough to be considered young. Well, if you're like me, you intend to be young and beautiful forever. Okay, I was never beautiful, fine. And one way of doing that is streaming some of the best shows from the era, as the twins from The Shining would say, forever and ever and ever. In this video, we will roll back the year, put on our tie-dye shirts, caps on sideways, and get on our skateboards as we skate through one of the greatest decades of all time, and witness some of the greatest shows ever made that you can stream today. Now, this is a story all about how you can watch some awesome shows that made you go wow. Now, if you'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you all about the 90s shows that were on the air. One of those, of course, is the show that made Will Smith a legend and introduced us to the Carlton Dance. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The hilarious and sometimes emotionally devastating show, the "how come he didn't want me, man" moment still gets me.
How come you don't want me, man?
Was a revelation and quickly made household names of its stars. Especially the Fresh Prince himself, Will Smith. For fans of the show, you can check it out on HBO Max in the US before the reunion special, which is also set to drop on the streaming service supposedly around Thanksgiving. So, no one told you that watching TV would be this way. So many streaming services, you're broke, your bank account is DOA. This isn't helped by one of the most iconic sitcoms of all time, Friends, being such a hot property, as it's seemingly constantly changing hands. Friends has specifically seen a resurgence since hitting a number of streaming services, with it being on Netflix in Canada and currently on HBO Max in the US. This means that a bunch of new fans will get to experience the classic Rachel haircut, Chandler's trademark sarcasm, Monica being neurotic, Joey's charm, Phoebe being Phoebe, and of course, the endless Ross quotes. Alright, let's pivot to the next one.
Pivot! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
We've already made a reference to them, and that is because it's impossible to ignore the most dysfunctional family in the world. No, I'm not talking about the Lannisters in Game of Thrones. I'm of course talking about The Simpsons. One of the longest running and best shows of all time, The Simpsons is so popular for its parody, satire, and touching moments, and has inspired generations of animated shows such as Rick and Morty and Family Guy. One of the best elements to come out of Disney acquiring Fox is that all seasons of The Simpsons were uploaded to Disney+, meaning you can binge 688 episodes of the clairvoyant show because everything's coming up Milhouse.
Suckers.
Shark boy!
If you're looking for a fun, easy-watching sitcom that still tackles a number of serious and important issues, look no further than Boy Meets World. The show ran from 1993 to the very end of this epic decade for 7 seasons, and quickly became a huge fan favorite. If you want to reprise your love for the show, or if you're looking for a new show, make sure to check it out on Disney Plus now, and get on your 90s nostalgia. Not only is recess the happiest part of your school memories, but it's also one of the greatest children's shows of all time. Not only does it feature a young Moe from The Simpsons in the form of Randall.
Rule the playground!
Alright, just kidding, that isn't true, but it could be. Its epic Great Escape opening is one of the most recognizable of all time. And it had a host of fun and lovable characters, which makes fans of the show happy to this day. Not gonna lie. I may have worn a backwards cap just to be like TJ, if only I had the freckles. If you're looking for some nostalgia or a new animated show to watch, then again check out Disney+. Put on some baggy clothing and check out 6 seasons of awesomeness. If you were born in the 2000s, you will probably know Tim Allen better as Buzz Lightyear. But for us 90s kids, we know him not only as one of the greatest Santa Clauses of all time, but as Tim the Toolman Taylor in the classic sitcom Home Improvement. The show, which also features a young Simba, follows the trials and tribulations of Tim Taylor as he runs a home improvement show and tries to raise 3 troublesome teens. The show played such a big part of my childhood that I can't look over a fence without thinking of Wilson, or use a hammer without making the famous Tim Allen noise. Alright, fine, I've never used a hammer in my life, but still, for anyone interested in the show or looking for a rewatch, you can check it out on Amazon, although you will have to purchase that one. Next on the list is 2 animated shows who go hand in hand, with them even having a crossover/shared universe before it was the cool thing to do, and those shows are Rugrats and the Wild Thornberrys. Rugrats is a show that ran from 1991 to 2006. And was told from the perspective of toddlers, and was funny, heartwarming, and inventive, to use just a few adjectives. The show definitely put a different spin on small, red-haired Chucky, and having a young Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders. Alright, okay, just kidding. The show is currently available to stream on Hulu. The Wild Thornberrys, on the other hand, focuses on a young girl named Eliza who, like Dr. Dolittle, can communicate with animals, and even stars the great Tim Curry as the hilarious and memorable Nigel. It even had the bass player of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Flea, as Donnie. For fans interested, it is available to watch as part of Nick Plus on Amazon, along with the crossover movie Rugrats Go Wild. Other than Leonardo DiCaprio's face, the most memed person/character on the internet is easily SpongeBob SquarePants, with it being nearly impossible to go on the internet without seeing the affable sponge. The show came out at the very end of the decade in 1999, you know, when the world was scared of Y2K, and has since gone on to become an amazingly popular animated show beloved by almost all. Let's face it, when I ask the question, "Are you ready, kids?" you can only say one thing.
I can't hear you!
Seriously, I can't hear you. That's not how a YouTube video works. I'm just going to assume you said it. Anyway, back on track, seasons 1 through 5 of the show are available on Nick Plus on Amazon, while 6 through 8 are available with a CBS All Access subscription. And all seasons after are available for purchase. You know, for all of you who want to make a trip to Bikini Bottom. Before there were seemingly 1 million X-Men movies, and even before the days of Hugh Jackman. I know, crazy, right? Who can imagine Wolverine without Hugh Jackman? The way the X-Men were portrayed on the screen was in the form of animation. This was, of course, the amazing X-Men animated show that ran from 1992 to 1997 and introduced us to a world of characters and our favorite mutants. If you haven't seen the show but seen the movies and read the comics, you will very likely know the story with the show, being an adaptation of the comic books and following the residents of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, who often spent their days fighting off villains such as Magneto. For anyone who needs an X-Men top-off, the show is currently streaming on Disney+. The term football head, which is very confusing for people from Britain where footballs are round, can be attributed with 2 characters for certain: Stewie Griffin from Family Guy and Arnold from Hey Arnold. Other than having a love story that is as frustrating as Ross and Rachel,
We were on a break.
they were on a break, not agreeing, just quoting, in Friends, and Lorelai and Luke in Gilmore Girls. Seriously, why did Luke have to have a daughter? Hey Arnold was an immensely popular show that looked at the world through the lens of a number of lovable and oddly shaped characters. It ran from 1996 to 2004, and even had 2 movies, one of which was a TV movie, which wrapped up a TV mystery even bigger than the one in Lost. What happened to Arnold's parents? It's another show that didn't shy away from hard issues, and has gone down as a cult classic, one which you can watch now on Hulu. Let me guess, when I say, hey, and every day when you're walking down the street, the Arthur theme song comes to mind, right? The world's most lovable aardvark, and her brother Arthur, is one of the greatest children's shows of all time, teaching us a number of valuable life lessons, as well as what kind of colorful sweater to wear. It's a classic. Although if they went with the original design of Arthur, that might not have been the case. Ugh, I cannot unsee that. Arthur is well worth the watch for anyone looking for a sweet, fun show to watch, and you can currently see some of the seasons on Amazon Prime. Let's face it, it's worth a watch for Buster and Binky alone, right? Again, if you're looking for a fun, educational animated show, we have a ticket to ride the Magic School Bus. The show was so popular that it warranted a reboot back in 2017, and can teach you more than most actual schools. The show and its titular enchanted vehicle can currently be watched on Netflix. Before the Avengers made their way onto the big screen, there is only one team of heroes that live up to their level, and they're of course the mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The Power Rangers were so exciting and beloved that I can guarantee almost everyone has their favorite color Power Ranger. Black Power Ranger all the way! Based on a Japanese show, Power Rangers was a 90s cultural phenomenon, and if you haven't seen it, you really need to, because they could kick the Avengers' butts. Just putting that out there. Anyone who doesn't agree with me can find out for themselves by watching the show on Netflix.
I can't believe they beat us back!
Bringing it back to Blink-182, if you're like former frontman Tom DeLonge, you will know that there are aliens among us. Well, at least that's what some believe. Aliens and extraterrestrials have been a long-time fascination for us. So it's no surprise that the show X-Files, which followed FBI agents Mulder and Scully investigating paranormal cases, is one of the most popular sci-fi shows of all time. The show premiered in 1993 and even had a recent revival, with all seasons now available to watch on Hulu. Speaking of aliens, the premise for a group of extraterrestrials assuming the identities of humans so they can learn about Earth's society might sound like a sci-fi horror, but it's actually the premise for the sitcom Third Rock from the Sun, which starred a hilarious and apparently endlessly energetic John Lithgow. While arguably some of the jokes are a little dated,
And on this planet, size matters.
it's still a hilarious and enjoyable show, well worth a watch on Amazon Prime right now. Keeping on the sitcoms now, when I ask the question, who does everybody love, where does your mind go to? Well, I know mine goes to Chris Hemsworth. Just look at that face. But the actual answer I was getting at is of course Raymond. After the show, Everybody Loves Raymond. The sitcom starring Ice Age and The Irishman's Ray Romano ran from 1996 to 2005 and is certainly a cult classic comedy currently available to watch on Peacock. You probably know Cole Sprouse as Jughead from Riverdale, or Ross's son Ben in Friends, along with his brother Dylan. To some, the twins might be better known as the brothers Zack and Cody on the show Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. While the show did technically air in the 2000s, most people from the 90s would have been kids during its run, so we're taking it on a technicality. Plus, I just love this show. The comedy show follows the brothers' lives, which take a surprising turn after their mother begins working at the Tipton Hotel in Boston. And for any Sprouse fans out there, the show is available to watch on Disney+. Another show that we get on a technicality down to the fact it aired in the early 2000s, and because I mentioned it earlier and want to discuss it again, is the show with the sharp-witted dialogue, better romantic factions than Twilight, and best falls around, Gilmore Girls. From the creators of Amazon's Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, the show centers on the relationships between, well, the Gilmore Girls. Mother Lorelai, daughter Rory, and grandmother Emily is funny, endearing, and admittedly at times frustrating, like seriously with Luke's daughter, but is well worth the watch with 7 seasons of the show, including the reunion, currently streaming on Netflix. Also, it has Jared Padalecki for you Supernatural fans, and Milo Ventimiglia for all you This Is Us fans, so I mean, come on. Honestly, out of all the shows on this list, this next one is arguably the most 90s, and that is Joss Whedon's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The critically acclaimed supernatural drama, which aired in 1997, focuses on, well, you guessed it, a vampire slayer named Buffy, with Sarah Michelle Gellar playing the titular character, and is certainly worth a watch for all you fantasy lovers out there, with the show currently on Hulu. Now, for kids from the 90s, the show you shouldn't have been watching, but almost certainly did, is of course the hilarious, outrageous, and let's face it, sometimes downright disgusting animated series South Park. To be honest, despite its popularity and hilarious content, it's sometimes hard to believe the show is still running. But the animated show is still going strong since its release in 1997, and we hope it doesn't slow down anytime soon. And that's partly because if you're like me, the line, "Oh my god, they killed Kenny," will forever be associated with my childhood.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny! You bastard!
Although if you could do me a favor and not tell my mother that I was watching South Park at such a young age, that would be greatly appreciated. The classic comedy is currently available to watch on HBO Max. Now, I can almost say for certain that R.L. Stine's Goosebumps had some impact on your lives if you're a 90s kid. Whether it be in book form or in the way of the TV show, the classic horror show aimed for a younger audience was surprisingly hilarious and scary in equal measure. with it being so popular that it spawned 2 recent movies with Jack Black and is available to stream on Netflix. It's darn near impossible to talk about the 90s and not talk about the cultural phenomenon that is Pokémon. While it's still going strong to this day, it was arguably never bigger than it was in the 90s, with the original group including Ash, Misty, and Brock. And of course, the king of cute before Baby Yoda, Pikachu. The show followed the very best trainer, the best there ever was in fact, Ash Ketchum, and his quest to catch them all. Alongside his trusted cohorts, he embarked on a series of adventures, and often found himself going up against the wily Team Rocket.
To protect the world from devastation.
To unite all peoples within our nation.
For Pokemon lovers out there, let's face it, who doesn't love Pokemon? Catch the show on Netflix before it blasts off again. Alright, maybe you might not have been watching The Sopranos when you were a kid, but because it's such an important show, we couldn't leave it out. The Sopranos is the 90s version of Breaking Bad. Everyone was talking about it. And it changed the game when it came to storytelling on television, and is one of the main inspirations for the shows we get today. Like The Simpsons, it follows a dysfunctional family, except with a lot more guns and wise guys. And honestly, the episode where Polly and Chris get trapped out in the snow is one of the best bottle episodes of all time. Some may find the end frustrating, but the show is more than worth the watch and can be found on HBO. Before the Netflix series, the witch most synonymous with the name Sabrina was the one played by Melissa Joan Hart in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. The show is still fondly remembered by fans and still holds up to this day. And if you're looking for a trip down memory lane, you can find the show currently on Hulu. Last but not least is actually a spin-off of the 80s shows Cheers, and this of course is Frasier. Now, while most spin-offs don't hold up, looking at you, Joey, Frasier easily works on its own, with the show being a critical delight, winning a whopping 37 Emmys throughout its 11-year run. Aided of course by the great Kelsey Grammer, who played the titular role. For anyone looking for a great sitcom to watch, you can currently find Frasier on Hulu.
She is not a doctor, no matter how many times she refers to herself as one. A cat can have kittens in the oven, but that don't make them biscuits.
What did you make of this video? Are you a 90s kid with pure nostalgia? Or are you not from the 90s and just discovering the shows? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to ScreenRant today for all this and more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.